the time, short sellers got much of the blame for the banking crisis of 2008. But according to Rich Payne, reader in finance at Cat's Business School, that was a mistake. Rich, tell me why.
Well, a colleague of mine and myself, Ian Marsh, we looked at 2008 and 2009 and we tried to answer two questions. The first was, can we come to a view as to why regulators may have introduced rules to limit short selling in financials? And the second was, what were the effects of these rules to limit short selling in financials? The answer to the first question was we could find very little evidence to suggest that aside from the prices of financial stocks dropping, we could find little evidence to suggest that short sellers were at play, were aggressively selling financial stocks. We could find very little reason for regulators to pick on short sellers specifically.
So you were looking at stocks that were being short sold and stocks that weren't, and comparing and contrasting and correlating, and you couldn't find any evidence that stocks that were short sold were performing any more badly than the market as a whole.
Correct. We were comparing financial stocks with a matched set of non-financial stocks and asking the question, pre-ban, did these stocks look any different? And aside from the fact that the prices of financials were dropping more quickly than other stocks, we could find very little to explain what people at the FSA at the time were calling incoherent markets or disorderly markets. There was very little evidence in the data of that.
And yet short sellers became the whipping boy, not least because of the protestations of people like Dick Fold, former boss of Lehman Brothers. Just give me that quote again.
I think Dick said something like, when I see a short seller, I want to rip out his heart and eat it in front of his eyes. So quite clearly he wasn't very happy with their actions. Whether or not that was a reflection of his belief in his own business or whether it was a reflection of what he genuinely thought about short sellers is a different issue. What we, again, after the ban, what we see is that those short sellers have clearly exited from the market. The volume in financial stocks is still going out of financials. So people are still selling financial stocks. Now this is clearly not short sellers. This is other people. These are long sellers.
So you're saying that this has done long-term damage to the market, the very absence of short sellers?
Well, our evidence suggested that while the ban was in place, markets were worse places to trade. They were less efficient. They impounded information more slowly. In general, liquidity was lower, so it cost more to trade, and volumes were lower. Whether you were a buyer or a seller, it costed you more to trade.
And this matters today because once again there are moves afoot in Europe to look at short selling and maybe ban certain types of short selling.
Sure, I mean there are suggestions in Europe at the moment that we look across asset classes and ban types of short selling. Our research would suggest you want to think about doing that quite carefully. Other research in the area suggests that short sellers are actually relatively valuable people to have around. These are people who correct temporary imbalances or temporary errors in prices.
Highlighting where something's going wrong, actually.
Correct. And these are people who are supplying liquidity to the market rather than aggressively selling stock.
Okay, so if we do have a regulator tuning in, watching this, what's the message? What's the one thing they should be taking away?
It's the public picture, or the picture, maybe not the public picture, the picture that many CEOs would like you to believe about short sellers is not necessarily accurate. These guys are performing what I would describe as a valuable service in markets. They're providing liquidity, they're not taking it away. They are making sure that prices are about right, rather than trying to manipulate prices downwards.
Richard Payne, thank you very much.
Thank you.